Hey guys! So in this video you and I are going to talk about web designers. So let's get into it. Now, this is going to be a bit of a semantic topic where we are going to define some things. And I'm going to do my best to try to define how I look at the term front-end engineer as opposed to a web designer. So let's try this. Let's try it on for size. Now, if you don't agree, that's absolutely fine, because this is a tricky one to make a distinction between. The thing that makes me feel that somebody is a web designer as opposed to a front-end engineer is the ratio between attention paid to design as opposed to engineering. What do I mean by that? Well, I mean that if you read, let's say, CSS tricks, Chris Coyer and his colleagues and his coworkers, most of them refer to themselves as web designers. There's also a very nice channel that I started following now, which is called Layout Land, which is an amazing platform if you want to learn about CSS Grid, for example. And whenever I listen to one of these front-end designers, I can hear in their thought process and what they emphasize is almost exclusively oriented around CSS, layout, design, all of these things. They are at no point ever making me feel as if, hey, these people are engineers. That's not a bad thing. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that it's a bad thing at all. Because the thing is that when I hear an engineer talking, and when I hear a web designer or a front-end engineer and a web designer talking, they emphasize very different things. As I said, the designer very, very often talks about responsive designs, layout, and all of these great things. This front-end engineer is, for the most part, the sort of person who will tell you about JavaScript and consistency in the code base. They will talk about different challenges with loading assets and all of these different, more technical things. At least that's my experience. And I don't know, it's this I think that the distinction is important to kind of have clear, because I see a lot of confusion, especially in the beginners who are just starting out, because you may think that when you watch or read about different front-end design articles, web design articles, I see a lot of new front-end engineers who think that that's what they do. It's not. And I think that this is something that I think it's a dying age. I think that web design as a purebred type of profession is going the same route as basically database administrators. I think that we are seeing, and I think it kind of to an extent has already happened. Today, I have yet to see anyone who really has I haven't met a pure web designer that isn't like basically a journalist or a spokesperson for one of the like really major companies or IT companies and so forth. Like, I find that web designers these days, purebred ones, they are usually bloggers, they write articles, things of that nature. They do a lot of freelance work, but I have never worked with one in a serious company. And as I said, I think that is because the trend now is that you simply compose a web designer into a front-end engineer, because the range of things that you have to know these days in order to work in professional software is getting bigger. And as with the DBA, you don't have the luxury anymore to be highly specialized in just one field. and on average survive. I'm not saying that there are no web design jobs. I'm just saying that I think that the ratio is going down. I think that it's more coming, we're moving more towards front-end developers or real engineers who know design. And that's a good thing and a bad thing. The good thing is that yes, you have people who can do more, or you have a more generic type of person that you can throw at more problems. The downside is that it is notoriously difficult to get really good at web design. It is extremely difficult making good CSS layouts and doing all these things. In fact, I think that one of the biggest reasons why the web is so horrible is because you have people especially engineers who are so arrogant because you are arrogant. I've met them so many times. People who are so arrogant that they think that just because they have amazing engineering skills that's going to just because you can understand how CSS works, and just because you can understand how layout or appreciate how a good layout looks, that does not mean that you can make it yourself. I have to this day never met a backend developer that is, arrogant, take it with a pinch of salt, but I've never met anybody who dismisses CSS as this nothing professional, or web design as this thing that, they don't really care about it, that at the same time could actually produce anything that you can show to a user. Kind of funny how you can be critical about something that you can't even do. On the other side of the spectrum, I think that the web design community are a little bit too niched on one thing, and sometimes I can find it a little bit, I'm not saying annoying, but sometimes I'm just not the sort of person who can get so deep into design that it takes up my entire universe. On the other hand, I'm one of those people who allow programming to take up my entire universe. Hey, I might be very annoying to listen to a lot of people. But what I really respect about these gurus and web design oriented people is that they are the sort of people that I want to listen to, because they have experiences and they know things that I may not be the person who is going to sit with them and talk on hours at end about how to do proper design on the web. But their findings, the tips and tricks and the things that they learn, that's what I want to hear about. Because very often I find that maybe a lot of the things that they discover and a lot of things that they talk about, they might be geared towards other people, other web designers. But every so often, I see a really great article. Layout Land, for example, that channel, you should have a look at that, because a lot of the tips and tricks there about CSS Grid are very educational. A lot of the time, I get these really nice tips from different web design articles that make me kind of go, yeah, I can understand how this is useful. I'll remember this, because I am actually, even though I'm not specializing that hard in making perfect CSS layouts, I'm not a CSS innovator, I still use it. And there's nothing better than to learn from somebody who is a real master in something. Even though you're just going to use it at a hobby level or at a slightly lower level. I can take my swimming, for example. There used to be a woman here who had competed in the Olympics. Now, I'm just a regular guy doing a little bit of swimming, but to get pointers from somebody who's been in the Olympics, I mean, how great would that be? And it's the same thing with following web designs. So Smashing Magazine, A List Apart, CSS Tricks, all these different platforms for web designers. If you are a front-end engineer, I highly encourage you to pay attention, because trust me, they have a lot of important lessons to teach you. Have a great day.